When reading about the Baroque era, you would have encountered three terms that will inform your Baroque era project: basso continuo, figured bass, and counterpoint. Basso continuo refers to an accompaniment part that is made up of a bass line and harmonies. It is played by a bass instrument, like the cello or bassoon, and a chordal instrument, like the harpsichord or lute. This provides the harmonic framework of a piece. The basso continuo is notated using figured bass. The bass line is accompanied by small figures that indicate which chord should be played above it. The bass instrument will play the bass line as written, but the chordal instrument will improvise using the chords indicated by the figures. Each figure indicates what interval above the bass note should be played. Baroque harmony is triadic, so chords are typically made up of thirds and fifths. If there are no numbers written below a bass note, it indicates that a root position triad should be built on that note. If a small 6 is written below a bass note, we will write the interval of a sixth above the bass note. We need an additional note to complete the triad, so we'll add a third above the bass note too. If we see a small 6 and 4 written below the bass note, we will add notes a fourth and a sixth above the bass note. When adding these intervals, we do not need to consider whether we are writing a major sixth or a minor sixth. Rather, we keep all notes within the key of the piece unless otherwise indicated. After studying triads and inversions, you should see a distinct parallel between figured bass and the symbols used to indicate chord inversions. For the first part of your project, you will need to realize an 8-bar figured bass, then add the appropriate chord symbols above the stave. To do this, you will begin by rewriting the bass note on each main beat of the bar. You will then add 2 more notes to the bass note based on the figures written below. There are no numbers written below this C, so we will add a third and a fifth above the note. Next, we have a 6 and a fourth written below the C, so we will add notes a fourth and a sixth above the bass note. The 6 below this D indicates that we should add the interval of a third and a sixth above the note. Once you have done this for each note, you can begin by analyzing the chords. The first chord is a C major triad, so we will write the chord symbol C above it. If we look at our next triad, we will need to rearrange its notes to put it into triad form. We can now see that this is an F major triad. We will indicate this by writing the chord symbol F above the chord, but then adding a slash and a C to show that the chord is in an inversion, and C should be written in the bass. We would follow the same process with the following chord. Once we have rearranged these notes to sit in triad form, we will discover that the triad is built on B. If we look at the interval between B and the D and the D and the F, we will find that we have 2 minor thirds. So here we have a diminished triad. We will indicate this with the letter B followed by a small circle. We will indicate that the D is written in the bass by adding a slash and a D. You can follow the same method for the remaining chords. Once you have done this, you will type the bass line, the chords, and the chord symbols into MuseScore to present your project.